Hi, welcome back to True Crime Sages. I'm Tina Cummins. I'm here tonight to discuss Missing Summer Wells, Part 5. Before I get to that tonight, I want to bring up a very important topic. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this on YouTube or not, but I'm going to, regarding the sexual abuse of children. If you're going to have kids, you should know something about this. You should know what the warning signs are. So I'm going to start with this. Give you a list of some warning signs of what to look for in abusers and what to look for in your children. Okay, so in reference to abusers, generally most are men. They're usually single, unattached. They could be married. It's possible. It's happened many times. They tend to show an unusually strong interest in children. So this goes above and beyond, someone coaching a soccer team. They want to know all about kids. They have a lot of interest in kids. Now, in reality, most men, they don't want to change diapers. They don't want to, look after children. And I'm not saying that it's not a husband's job to do that or to take care of his own children, but I'm talking about those who you may suspect of having a higher than normal or unusual interest in your children. Okay, so many predators will interact with kids outside of normal hours. Most dads, the last thing they want to do is take care of their children. And not just talking about dads, I'm talking about, the neighbor, the relative, the guy next door, a friend of a friend, they'll want to interact with kids outside of their normal hours. Now, that's not always the case, but often they do, okay, when in referencing a child predator. A lot of times they'll try to help with the child outside of what is deemed normal. So they'll try to get close to the child, or say if you need something for the child and you can't afford it, oh, let me get that. You have to look at their homes. A lot of times their homes are kid friendly. There's a lot of toys. There's a lot of kid stuff that is unusual for a grown man to have, things that, would entice a child. So another predatory behavior would be disregarding the words no or stop or unwanted efforts of a child to avoid physical contact. So say your child doesn't want somebody touching them and they feel uncomfortable. That child should be allowed to feel uncomfortable and say, no, stop, get away. And normally a person would say, okay, put the child down, go on their merry way. But if you notice someone that is, like making an effort to not allow that child to say no or stop, that's a warning sign. Guys that will also stare for a long time at children, or notice their physical appearance. You'll notice a predator, sometimes they'll, in their mind, stalk a child. So say you're sitting in a room with 15 people and there's a guy there and he's sitting there staring at a child the whole time, or, for long periods of time. That's noted as a sign. Also, comments about a child's physical appearance that don't seem normal. Like, okay, so some guys will say, oh, you're growing up. Another guy might say, or a predator might say, oh, you look really cute in that outfit. Sometimes it can even go a little off the normal and even into sexual, noticing something sexual about the child. That's a huge red flag. So you might want to look at volunteers who work with kids, but they don't have children of their own, or they spend more time with kids than they do with adults. maybe not somebody you'd want to trust your child with. They may come off as immature or childish themselves. You know, they want to play with the kids and they act like, you know, younger than their own age, inappropriate, in that all they want to do is play with kids and not adults. They might give special gifts or privileges to children. That's another warning sign. They can be overly affectionate or overly critical. Both are warning signs. Overly affectionate, you have to step back and wonder, why are they being so affectionate with this child? Overly critical, meaning the punishment doesn't fit the crime. They may exhibit a sense of special rights over a child above others. They may be eager to learn details about your romantic life if you're a single mother, and show a lot of interest in your child. That's a warning sign. They may even offer to babysit or help you out. Or they may suggest that the child is troubled, or that they may suggest the child lies to discredit the child in future claims of abuse. Okay, so there's a lot of things you want to, it's really difficult for a woman to trust a man with a child anyway, if it's not a parent. Sometimes even if it is a parent. But there are many signs to look up, and you can look up those signs. You can just Google them. I mean, there's all kinds of signs, but especially if someone is being overly affectionate with the child and doing special favors, anything like that, or if they're staring at the child, if you notice somebody that's, you know, if it doesn't seem right, if you're dating a guy and he seems too good to be true, like he loves your kids, you know, that's a red flag. So anyway, now let's talk about the warning signs in children, okay, of sexual abuse. Okay, a child might have nightmares or other sleep problems without an explanation. So, you know, one day your kid's sleeping normally, the next day they're having nightmares, and then the next day, that could be a problem. They seem distracted or distant at odd times. So they'll just all of a sudden be staring into space. There's a sudden change in appetite. Now we're talking about younger children here, but there's a sudden appetite, an increase or decrease. Either they lose their appetite or they're stress eating. Not really hungry, but something's going on. There could be sudden mood swings, rage, fear, insecurity, or withdrawal. They leave clues that are likely to provoke a discussion about sexual issues. For example, they might start touching their body in any inappropriate ways if they're small, you know, something to pay attention to. They have a new or unusual fear of certain people or places. Like one day the kid's fine, and then all of a sudden they're terrified of that person or don't want to be around that person. Or there's a place they always go to, say the daycare, you know, they've always been fine at the daycare. Now all of a sudden they're terrified to go. That's a warning sign. A refusal to talk about a secret shared with an adult or another child. That's something you want to really pay attention to. Okay. They could write, draw, or play or dreams of sexual or frightening images. Obviously, you know, if something is really scaring them, there's monsters or anything sexual, you know, it's something to pay attention to. They talk about a new older friend. You know, you have to be careful. Are they talking about an older friend, somebody that you're like, why is this person befriending a child? I'll give you an example. At my daughter's apartment, kids always played out in their backyard. Well, their backyard ran up along the highway. Okay, so their backyard butted up against the expressway, and there was some woods back there, and this man came up in the woods and, you know, instantly tried to make friends with my very young grandson at the time. And I ran out there and he took off into the woods. And my grandson came in. He says, "Oh, he was just trying to be friends. He said he wanted to be my friend." Yeah, I bet he did. I had to sit down with my grandson and explain to them what was going on. I called the police, told them what had happened. Anyway, so there you go. A child might suddenly have money or toys or other gifts without a reason. You don't know where they came from. So you want to pay attention to that. They may suddenly think of their body as repulsive, dirty, or bad. Yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. They may exhibit new adult-like sexual behaviors, language, and knowledge. And they have physical signs of sexual abuse. And they may include the following: pain, bleeding, discharge, and other physical trauma to the genitals, anus, or mouth, vaginal infections in girls, or sexually transmitted diseases. Sadly, that's happened often. I've sadly seen it even in young children, very young babies, infants. They may have persistent or recurring pain during urination or bowel movements. There may be bedwetting or soiling accidents unrelated to toilet training. And they may have trouble swallowing. So if you suspect sexual abuse in a child, the first thing you need to do is take your child and have them checked out. Then you need to call the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children if you have a lost, missing, or sexually exploited child. The number is 1-800-THE-LOST. To report sexual exploitation via the NCNEC or the FBI cyber tip line, you could call 1-800-843-5678. So let me just say this: when it comes to cyber crimes, you need to watch what your kids are doing on the internet. The FBI estimates that in 2021, over 500,000 child predators online. Very easy for them to get your child's IP address. Very easy for them to figure out where your child lives. And there are ways to protect your children against this. So that said, that's quite a list. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about grooming, okay? Grooming isn't always specific gifts or privileges. Grooming could be something as simple as playing games with kids, little fun games that start out innocently enough, but over time become sexualized. I think it's very important. First of all, I can't blame a parent or a victim ever, but you have to be vigilant in knowing what the signs are and watching your children and who you trust with them. And it's difficult when you have to send kids to school and daycare, and you need somebody to watch your kids in order to work, in order to survive. And predators are well aware of this. So, any parent should look up the warning signs. Every parent should look up the warning signs. They need to be vigilant in who they're going to trust with their children. Now, unfortunately, there are female child predators, mostly male predators, but there are female child predators. Same typical thing, they might lavish on your child special treatment, but you need to be aware of what those things are. So for your sake and for your child's sake, I hope you Google it. Excuse me. Generally, child predatory behavior can be passed down from generation to generation. Somebody who was abused as a child may become an abuser, or someone who's never been abused may become an abuser. But it tends to run in cycles. Excuse me. So that said, if you suspect any kind of child sexual abuse, get your child checked out immediately. If it didn't happen, okay, that's great, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Talk to your children, talk to them, and let them know that it's okay for them to not accept someone touching them, to not accept someone that is inappropriate with them. It's okay to not want to hug someone, not hold on to someone, not trust someone. And have a dialogue with your kids, even young children. This is what it is. Do not let anybody do anything to you. This is yours and yours alone. And make them feel like you can try the best you can to protect them. Make them aware of their own bodies and what is and isn't appropriate. And if you do that, allow your kids to tell them, if anybody ever tells you you're going to get in trouble for telling me, you won't. I promise you, you will not get in trouble. Nobody's going to get hurt. I'll take care of it. And again, have an open dialogue with them. Get it checked out immediately if you suspect anything. Hopefully, it won't happen to you, but it happens to kids every day. So you need to have that conversation with your children, and you need to keep an eye on them. So, and that brings me to the Summerwells case. I need to light a cigarette for this. Now, I think up to this point, Belinda and I have given plenty of room for the people surrounding Summer. We've given them the benefit of the doubt in every possible way. And we've given them the opportunity to come forward, to come out in public, to say what needs to be said. Let me say this, everyone's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just discussing Summer's case because she is missing, and, I'm concerned. So that said, I want to discuss what's going on around this child. Now, I don't know if there is a history of sexual abuse with Candace Bly Wells and Don Wells as they were growing up as children. I don't know. That said, Candace has a specific uncle that has been convicted, found to be mentally ill, but convicted of, I believe, 8 counts of incest. Candace has a sister that went missing, Rose Bly. Don't know if that had anything to do with the family or not, but the case is, reopened. And as of late, last night, Don Wells' stepsister came forward and was very open about the sexual abuse claims that she's endured from the time she was 5 years old until she was a young teen by Don Wells. Don Wells had admitted this, but he claims she initiated it. Now, how does a 5-year-old initiate something like that? I have no idea. There have been no formal charges, but again, she was very open on the interview room with Chris McDonough. And his son is also a registered offender, which was also explained away. Now, interestingly enough, I found a friend that had been staying there at one point. If it's the same person with the same name, it may not be. But if it is, then this person was convicted of child sexual exploitation and is a registered sex offender. So, and then you've got, local neighbor. So this child summer was surrounded by people, to say the very least, filled with inappropriate behavior. That doesn't mean one or any of them are guilty, but in my opinion, like, man, she didn't have a chance. Now, I don't know if Candace Bly has ever been assaulted in that way, or has ever, I haven't talked to history, but she doesn't have a history of sexual abuse as far as I'm aware. However, she does have a history, and I want to go over just a quick criminal history of Candace. So let's go there. She was charged with battery. She had her probation revoked a couple times, disorderly conduct, resisting an officer, and domestic abuse. She had also lost custody of her two oldest children. Her children are now, her young children are now in state custody in Tennessee, for obvious reasons. But even more that, some of her behaviors, according to the friends and the family and surrounding this case, are more than questionable. Let me just say this. With Candace, I've yet to see a tear shed. She avoided the media for several weeks. And now, she's very standoffish with the media, with everybody, accusing TBI, accusing the searchers. Everybody's doing it wrong. But yet her timeline is off. And her behavior is off. Her general appearance is not that of a mother who's missing a child. That said, it doesn't mean she did anything to her child. It doesn't mean she didn't. I don't know. But again, the behavior is very questionable. And like I said, we've given them opportunity to come forward and answer questions, but yet, instead of answering questions, you get very standoffish behavior. Now, in reference to Don Wells, I think Chris McDonough pretty much covered what we've long suspected. That doesn't mean he did anything to his daughter Summer. The one thing I will say that's interesting about Don Wells is when he said he put her in her car. I have a lot of thoughts about that. Being that Summer seemed to be his love, which is disturbing in itself, but his love. That doesn't mean that he was abusing her. But there's a reason why they do victimology, and there's a reason why past relevant behavior can predict future behavior. As someone who has molested another child, another young child, even though he started as a child himself, this behavior continued for years. That's serial predation. It goes and goes and goes. So in terms of figuring out what happened to Summer, again, they always start with a family. And this family history is just, wow. It's rather shocking. And not just shocking, not just the history, but the timeline. You know, did something happen leading up to this? I have some other suspicions as well, but in totality, you still can't just say, oh, well, it's got to be the parents. You can't say that. Now, I'm sure, again, TBI and the FBI are working on where they were at the time, and, you know, who was where and what kind of video evidence do you have? What kind of tapes do you have? Who was on the road that day? All of these things. And then they're still looking for that red Toyota Tacoma. I have a lot of other thoughts on this missing persons case of poor little Summer. But some, you know, getting aside, let's again set aside Dad for a moment and what happened in the house, because we don't know. Maybe nothing happened. It's alarming to me that, you know, Summer was sleeping in the same bed with this man who had serial predatory behavior, according to his stepsister, in the long past. That had happened many, many times. We're talking thousands of times. So yeah. Now that hasn't been to court. It hasn't been in front of a judge. You know, innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This is all according to what's been put out in the world. So setting that aside, you know, if it was someone else, I still have to look at Mom's behavior. One of the things I found that had been put out in social media world, and, you know, you can Google it, but she had made a comment to someone at one point, said, "Bitch, I will put you in a trunk and help people look for you. Stop playing with me." That was Candace Bly, dated 8/7/2019. That's not the image that is portrayed to be a Christian, God-fearing woman. When you're threatening to put somebody in a trunk and then go help look for them, how can we ever trust that what you're telling us is true now? So yeah, there's the parents. Still, we don't have the crime scene. We don't know what happened. Interestingly enough, the dispatcher at 6:23 tells another officer that Candace had went for a walk and came back and Summer was missing. Said that's what Dad had relayed. I find that interesting. Also on Reddit, however you pronounce it, someone who claimed to be a neighbor said that there were footprints, 2 child footprints, one in their yard and one in another neighbor's yard, that were fresh, that search and rescue found. There's speculation there. I'm not going to go into the speculation, but if Summer's footprint was found in that yard and in the neighbor's yard, were there any other footprints there? I don't know. So still, everything is up in the air with the behavior of the parents. It's alarming. Doesn't mean they're guilty. It could still be a local predator. And then, you know, you go online and you find out some interesting things. I'm not going to come out and accuse anybody. I don't know. But I will say this. I'm praying for that poor little girl, that whatever she went through or whatever she is going through, that God, please protect her, please stop her pain. And I hope you'll join me in that prayer, no matter what happens with the parents or with whomever preyed on this girl. Be it the neighbor, a local child predator. This poor little innocent baby didn't have much of a chance in this world. So please join me tonight to pray for her, and may God have mercy on whomever did this to her, because justice will come one way or another. That's all I have for tonight. I thank you for tuning in. Until next time.